for joining. I was kind of catching everybody up on where we are. Seattle right now, headed to Dubai, two big conferences back to back. And then the second we get back from that, we have the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show, which we will have a presence at as well. But as you guys have all seen, the company has changed over the last year and a half to 2 years. And we are now the Ark Companies. And so when we just had ARKHAUS, we were building a hospitality focused business. And then the outgrowth of that was E-LIXR, which was a water taxi network and technology. But then, as you guys saw in the last 6 months, we had the opportunity to acquire Arkup, the builder of the vessels. And that really changed the nature of what we are as a company. So rather than being a hospitality company and a transportation company together, we're now building what we consider to be the zero-emission future of waterfront cities. And so that's a pretty big and bold statement. And why are we willing to make that? And that's because Arkup now, as this electric vessel manufacturer, really provides the backbone of what ARKHAUS and E-LIXR can do. Arkup itself is a manufacturing business. That's not a venture scale business, but as part of the trio, it enables ARKHAUS and E-LIXR to do many, many more things than if we were just buying vessels from Arkup. And so the synergies that these three companies have now created together allow us to build waterfront cities as it relates to transportation, housing, hospitality, other industrial uses, transportation depots, and one day even defense. And so I'm going to walk you through the three companies really quick, but that's where this has gotten really exciting in the last month. So it all started with ARKHAUS. We are a floating social club at the outset, Miami first and foremost, which is in beta launch right now. These are the first two vessels we have, along with two of our Axopar tenders. And right now we're deploying a bunch of activations and events, but in the near future, the full club will deploy and a lot more events will be carried out. The other interesting part of ARKHAUS is that in the long term, ARKHAUS has an even more exciting future than just social clubs. We're developing a concept called floating hospitality as a service. That means we can actually help any waterfront hotel, restaurant, bar, anybody else that wants to expand their land-based business onto water. We can deploy something like this for them, not only get them the vessels, but also operate it. And so ARKHAUS's long-term future will be less and less as a club, even though that will grow, but really more about what we do for land-based businesses and how they expand to water. But the big news over the last 6 months, of course, is the acquisition of Arkup. I think many of you guys are familiar with what happened. We had actually bought 6 vessels from Arkup, and they hit some hard times and were not able to build them. So we stepped in and we said, we'll take over. This is the best example of turning lemons into lemonade I can even imagine. The last 6 months weren't easy. We really had to dig in and work with our capital partners, a few of who are on this call. Thank you very much. And make that acquisition possible. But the synergies this provides now are insane. And so Arkup will not only build these vessels, but will also go on to build other electric vessels that'll work for E-LIXR. But the very first thing that we recognized we did not want to do as Arkup was we did not want to be a boat builder. Boat building is a very hard thing. It takes decades to learn it well and do it well. And the last thing we wanted to do while we're running 2 other companies is go spend a lot of time figuring that out. So we actually partnered with what many people would consider to be the #1 boat builder in America, and that's Lyman Morris. This is a Maine-based boat building company. This isn't public yet. You've heard me tease this on LinkedIn, but these guys, we had a chance to go visit them. I went up there for my 3rd time, and I was just absolutely blown away. Every time I'm there, I see some more of the technologies that these guys deploy. They build vessels for the Navy, Coast Guard, local police. They've built electric vessels. They build the world's best sailing yachts. These guys are absolutely top notch. And so we're very lucky and very excited that they're going to turn around and build a very quality product. But there's a second piece to this Lyman Morris story. And I'm just going to play the video again. Lyman Morris can only build so many boats for us in a given year, somewhere between 6 to 12 using at this facility. That's not enough. For us to build the business we really want to build, we got to get that to about 50 vessels a year. And that's just on the Arkup side. On the E-LIXR side, we probably need to build another 50 boats per year on that side. And there's no way that'll happen at this existing facility. So we have a conversation going with Lyman Morris that together we're actually going to go build a shipyard that's most likely going to be in Florida. We will own the shipyard, Lyman Morris will operate it, and that boat yard will be specifically for electric boats that sell Arkup boats to customers, sell Arkup boats for ARKHAUS, and then eventually the E-LIXR boats for the water taxi system. So that is a very, very exciting partnership that we'll probably get announced in the next week. The next big announcement, and this one is also not public yet, is the second partner we're bringing on. Many of you might know the name Pininfarina. This is the world's leading design studio, especially as it relates to autos. They've designed half of all the Ferraris and Alfa Romeos in history, yachts, commercial real estate buildings, name it. They are the number one, and there's really no second near them. They were very excited about the water taxi project, and that's how we got introduced to them. So they came on to actually design that. And then we went to them and said, hey, news update, we actually just acquired Arkup. Would you guys like to design these vessels or redesign these vessels for us? And they said, absolutely. So Pininfarina is now our design partner on both vessel lines, the Arkup vessels that go towards ARKHAUS, and then the water taxis that will go to E-LIXR. And I can't imagine another name that's going to, invoke more excitement than these guys as we go to sell vessels. And then the third company, so moving away from the Arkup conversation now, is E-LIXR. So for those of you who've kind of been paying attention to the E-LIXR story, this started out as our own water taxi for ARKHAUS. We realized the massive need nationwide. California, Washington, and Michigan are already putting in subsidies and mandates that all harbor traffic has to become zero emission, which means electric or hydrogen. And nobody is building those boats in the US, which is required. So we designed this boat for ourselves. And then when we realized how big of a need it was, but the complicating factor here was that E-LIXR was doing two things. One was, hey, we're designing an electric boat, which is a very big lift on its own. And two, we're also going to build this technology and aggregate a network of water taxi operators to make all of this work. That's a lot. That's a lot, especially considering you have ARKHAUS at the time. But the great thing about the Arkup acquisition is that 50% of that E-LIXR equation, which was the building of the boats, is now going to get transitioned to Arkup. So E-LIXR will no longer be a builder of electric water taxis. Arkup will do that, and will focus on boats purely. And again, Lyman Morris will be doing the actual building, but Arkup will be the brand. And E-LIXR now gets to be a pure play software technology. And for lack of a better term, this is nothing more than the Uber of water. We'll start on fuel-based boats. We'll transition into electric boats as they become more and more available. We'll build some, we'll buy them from others. But the goal here purely is that we build an app, which is happening right now, where any rider in a waterfront city can book a shared ride or a private ride, just like an Uber. You can also, what's really cool here, on the back end, you will be able to add road service to your destination, whether that's at the beginning of your ride or at the end of the ride or both. So it'll take you home to work seamlessly. We are actually building this on Uber's admin back end because the idea is that, yes, while we have our own E-LIXR app and we build our own network, we actually want to plug into Uber. And that's a conversation we already have with them. Uber has tried to do Uber Boat in the US. They're doing it in London right now, but not in the US. They've realized how fragmented the US market is. So we go to them and we say, we're going to build E-LIXR, and then we're going to plug into Uber as your middleware layer. And so on a future date, when you go into the Uber app, you'll see an option that'll say Uber Boat. And that Uber Boat will actually be us powering it. And so that's what we're working towards building with them. So of the three companies, this is definitely the largest scale opportunity. Arkup is a manufacturing business, is manufacturing, so stable margins, stable business. ARKHAUS is a hospitality business, a little bit more upside, but E-LIXR is a pure play software, is much, much larger upside. So this is our team. I myself and Natalie are the co-founders. I'm CEO. Natalie is CXO, that's Chief Experience Officer. So my background is really investment banking. I've had a lifelong love of boats, specifically electric boats. I joke around that I built my first electric boat when I was 6 years old, and I put an electromotor into a milk carton and floated around a pool. It didn't float that long, but it did. Natalie cut her teeth at LVMH, has been in the luxury branding and marketing. So she guides all consumer facing concepts that we do. Drew Kelly is with us in an interim fashion, and he will be the next person who we look to make full-time. Drew is a powerhouse CFO, billions of dollars in transactions while he was in investment banking. But for those of you familiar with Mohegan Sun, he was the CFO of Mohegan Sun globally. They're the fourth largest gaming operator. So enormous, enormous business. Hardin runs all our maritime finance as a consultant. That's all he does. Liz is full-time internal. She manages all our HR, compliance, and accounting. Emily is full-time with us, and she manages all creative operations. So that's the websites, the marketing, and a variety of other things. We also have an additional roster of captains, deck hands, and chief stews that manage ARKHAUS, but obviously didn't list them here. But we have three pretty exciting hires that are happening right now. One of them we just brought on is a gentleman named David Johansson. David is the former president of X-Shore Americas. X-Shore is an electric boat brand that came out of Sweden and expanded to the US, and David was the guy who helped them come here. So he came on, and David is kind of a product building and a factory building savant. So David is going to slowly take over the Arkup business. Of course, I'll be managing every business head to do that. But he's the guy who's going to make sure those boats get built on time, the right way, the future shipyard gets built the right way so that Lyman Morse can operate it. And very excited to have David on board. Another hire that we're working on at the moment, who I believe is also on this call, is Daniela Frewa. Daniela worked with us previously. She's really in luxury goods and real estate. And Daniela is coming back to join us. And she's going to be working with Natalie on the ARKHAUS side primarily to run all of the operations that are happening right now. But Danielle is also going to cross over between Arkup and ARKHAUS. And so I mentioned there's a lot of synergies, and this is one of the really, really cool ones. Arkup builds these vessels, and then ARKHAUS, not the social club, but ARKHAUS, the floating hospitality as a service, will then go and deploy for waterfront restaurants, condos, hotels, bars, whatever it may be. And Daniela, with her luxury goods and real estate background, will go out and do the outreach to bring these partners on. Arkup will build boats, we'll operate it, and that's how we expand waterways and waterfront usage. The third of these hires is Drew himself. Drew Kelly, we've been speaking about Drew becoming full-time with us for some time now, and through a variety of things that have happened. I think in the next few months, we're hopefully going to be able to close that loop, and Drew will be on board. Drew will be at the parent entity working, so at the Ark Companies, not at any one specific company, but making sure everything works globally. So those are the three additional hires that we're very excited about. And then just want to tell you guys a little bit about the investment round. So of course, the Ark Companies, if you invested previously, you invested into ARKHAUS. And while it says ARKHAUS here, I'm going to tell you that the entity you previously invested in is this entity. We just renamed it. And then these are the three sub-entities, ARKHAUS, E-LIXR, and Arkup. And so what's happening here is, oh, sorry, one second. I'm getting a little bit of an echo feedback. There we go. It's gone. So what's happening here is all investment that comes here, as these companies grow and build and we exit either all three of them at the same time or one at a time, you as an investor will benefit from that. And whether you invested previously or in this current round, that is the case. Now, building these three companies takes a lot of money. And that's why we're raising a $6 million round right now. That $6 million is going to get split up into 2.2 going into ARKHAUS. That's primarily to continue our operations and then begin the builds of the commercial boats, or continue the builds of the commercial boats, I should say. E-LIXR, this is really more technology development and network development. And then Arkup, you can see here that we only own 25% of Arkup. A couple of our investors own the other 75%. And so we don't need to fully capitalize that. We only need to contribute about 25% of the capital that goes into that entity, which is $575K. If you add these three up, you'll see they get to just over 5 million. I think it's 5.025 million. or 5.075 million, I should say. We're raising a $6 million round, which means we have about $1 million of buffer. That's very, very healthy. And so we're excited to get this round open and closed over the next while. You've seen that, of course, we've raised a substantial amount already in this round. On the WeFunder page, you can see that it's over $1 million. And so obviously we want to keep that going. One very big important piece is this bucket on the bottom. Our lead investor has more or less been backstopping everything we need to do. That means he has been funding all three companies so that we can continue going without wasting our time on low yielding efforts and only focus on high yielding efforts. That is a boon that I don't know many companies have. And it's not a blank check by any means, but having a backstop investor that says, let's go and let's go fast is a pretty insane benefit to a company at the stage that we're at. So we're very lucky to have that. And as in existing or potential investors, that is one thing that should be in the back of your mind saying, I know that this round is going to get closed and we are going to get through to fruition and build this company because we have that. And so with that being said, we invite you guys to continue following our progress. Go take a look at the WeFunder page. If you have not yet contributed in this round, we would welcome you to do so. We are not sure exactly when we will close this round. We don't have a requirement that it closes on any given day, but it could be within a month or it could go on for 3 more months. The crowdfunding round really is a way for us to work with our community and give you guys access into the round. And that's why we basically think the crowdfunding will provide somewhere around 25 to 30% of the total capital. The other 75% or so will come from private investors, venture capital, angels, family offices. But we do want to give you guys the opportunity to invest. And as you've been following the story, kind of right alongside us. So I'm going to stop the share here and see if anyone has questions. I know I got a couple other people here. All right. I see a question. John Lee, do LPs get any depreciation credits? We can do that going forward, but not existing, right? Because it's an equity investment, there's no depreciation credit. However, one thing that I did not touch on, because it's technically outside of the Ark Companies, is we have worked to create a third-party financing arm so that when a customer, and whether that customer is ARKHAUS, E-LIXR, or Mike in Florida, wants to buy a vessel, this third-party financing arm can finance him quickly. So we are actively bringing on debt investors who can invest into that. And then that fund gets depreciation credit, which goes downstream to the investors in that fund. So interesting question, a little bit off the beaten path there, but thanks. Let me see, what other questions do we have? Natalie and Devin, I know you were following the questions. I see. Okay, Doug, any news of the Venetian remodel? I think you're talking about the Venetian Marina. The Venetian Marina is going to go into a remodel over the next 2 to 3 years. Of course, that's important because that is our home base. We have spoken with them and said, can we bring in shoreside charging, meaning a Tesla-style supercharger, so that we can actually run our water taxi service as well. We don't need that for ARKHAUS. We need it for the water taxi side. They're fully open to it. The even better part is that there is a organization in Miami called the Omni, and the Omni is going to fund that charger. And so as we get to that point where the Venetian Marina does their remodel, we get our services up and running, the Omni will fund that charger. And we actually believe FPL, Florida Power and Light, will subsidize our energy entirely. So when you think about running a water taxi service, fuel outside of staffing is your #1 cost, right? Gasoline is insanely expensive. Just by going down to electricity, we save about 70% of our energy cost. And then if FPL subsidizes that last 30%, we cut that out and become dramatically more efficient and more profitable. Let's see. Marlon, I see you. Yeah, Marlon, I know your name. Don't worry. You mentioned Lyman Morse about potentially acquiring them. Lyman Morse is a third generation family owned business. They are exceptionally good at what they do. They're, I think, very happy in their current state. And so I don't want to speak to what they are looking to do in terms of investment and growth, but I will tell you that everything that we want to do with Lyman Morse as we grow will come out of that second and large shipyard that we co-built together. The fact that we can actually build a very large shipyard and not have to be the operator and then let that shipyard be focused on our vessels is amazing. To do that, two things got to happen. One is we have to have the demand for the boats, which we believe we have, not only because we're building ARKHAUS and water taxis, but also the third-party customers for Arkup. That pre-sales model is about to start rolling in over the next 3 months. And so there's going to be the demand there. The second reason this shipyard is very timely is the current administration at the federal level, while they're shutting off a lot of green and blue initiatives, meaning anything electrification wise, they are pouring in a lot of money into US shipbuilding. And that's because it's effectively a way to counter China's shipbuilding prowess right now. And so trying to build a shipyard that builds boats that could one day be used for defense, there's a lot of grant money out there for that right now. So we're going to go try to get some of that money. David, hey David, can I expand on the upcoming regulations in the US to ban fossil fuel boats? I don't think there's a ban coming. I think there are going to be incentives and subsidies, and it won't come at the federal level. It'll come at the state level towards electrification. And it's going to come from your more blue-leaning states. So California had a mandate that all harbor boating, commercial harbor traffic, anything going less than 3 miles, so take out your ocean tankers basically, has to be zero emission. And that mandate kicked in allegedly in January of 2025, so 9 months ago. The reality is nobody is building the correct electric boats to fulfill that need. And so they did that to incentivize industry to go build boats, guys like myself and all of the other companies. And so a lot of companies have stepped up and said, we want to build electric boats in the US. Now, here's where a shipyard comes into play on that. Most of the companies building electric boats are actually not based in the US. Most of them are based in Europe. There are some that are based in Asia. There's only a couple of them that are based in the US. And all of those companies are trying to come to the US. And they have to either find a shipbuilding partner or they have to establish their own boatyard. And what we have the opportunity to do, because we are a partner with Lyman Morris, is go to any one of these third-party European electric boat builders and say, hey, we would love to have you guys here because we would love to buy your boats for the E-LIXR water taxi. By the way, we also have a shipyard. We also have the country's best boat builder. So we become the go-to or the de facto facility for electric boating in the US. And that's why that's super exciting. But California is the leader in this, in the subsidies. Washington is definitely probably the most advanced in the state in terms of electrifying waterborne transportation. Michigan is next, and then New York and Maryland, I would say, are the next leads. Interestingly enough, Florida is doing almost nothing. There's zero interest in electrification in Florida. I think the state's view down there is let it happen on its own as it happens rather than us promoting it. I will also say we have on the E-LIXR side, we're trying to build a network of water taxis and water ferries because ultimately we want to be that app that powers how people ride waterborne transportation. We have a conversation going with 4 major municipalities right now in how we build our own water taxi system there. Again, we're not the operators, we're just the technology. Seattle, San Francisco, New York City, and Miami. So in Miami, we technically have a pilot operating already. In San Francisco, we're speaking with them about a couple of specific routes that our vessel is very suited for. In New York City, we're talking about pairing our water taxi service alongside the New York City ferry as a leaner, more efficient system. And then Seattle is very gung-ho on creating waterborne transportation in advance of next year's World Cup, which Seattle is one of the host cities for. And so I think in the next year, as we get our technology up and running and get the network up and running, we're going to see all four of those markets come online. So super, super excited about that. Eric, Aqua Superpower, Chempower, and ABB would be great partners. I saw Scott Canning from Aqua yesterday here at the conference. I think Chempower is an amazing charging partner. We've spoken with those guys pretty actively. And then ABB. So I mentioned two partners on the boat building side. One was Lyman Morris on the shipbuilding side. One was Pininfarina on the design side. The propulsion system is many, many parts. It's the propeller, the batteries, the electronics, and a variety of other things. Usually one company comes in and gives you the primary guts of the system. And we are actually speaking with ABB and Siemens on that. Siemens historically has powered much larger ships. Recently, they developed the capability to actually come downstream and work on smaller water taxis and ferries. They made a hire of a guy named Drew Orvieto, who we're very close with. And Drew basically said, we can do this now. Siemens couldn't do it before. So Siemens and ABB, one of the two of them will be providing the componentry for the vessels. Hey, Carl, have you selected the electrical system for the water taxis yet? I guess kind of just answered that. Nothing is finalized. We are still looking at a variety of motors. That's the one component on the water taxis that we have not fully dialed in yet. But, you know, to the extent that somebody came to us and said, we want to manage the entire electrical system, soup to nuts, from the shoreside charger to the plug-in charger, the cables, the inverters, the chargers, the batteries, the motors, the propellers, the screens, the controls, that would be awesome. But we have yet to have somebody come to us and say, we will do everything. Almost everybody will do about somewhere between 70 to 90% of it all. We haven't connected with somebody that does all of it yet. Are you aiming to expand outside of the US? Yeah, absolutely. So on multiple fronts. First, on the ARKHAUS side, ARKHAUS has always had a vision that it would build 7 clubs in 5 years once the first one is in full swing. And then in the subsequent 5 years, build another 20 to 25 clubs. And the primary reason is we're not building real estate. We don't have to identify land or a building, permit it, design it, build it, which is a 2-year process. We literally get to build boats in a shipyard continuously while we pre-sell memberships on the other side. And as each market gets to a certain critical threshold of memberships, whether that's 50, 100, or 200, we can send 2 boats, launch part of the club. At another threshold, we can send another 2 boats. So the fact that our launch is disconnected from the build allows us to build as fast as we want and deploy vessels where we want. But even larger than the social club side is the hospitality as a service, where we deploy vessels and help land-based businesses expand to water. So again, you can imagine any Ritz-Carlton saying, I want 4 overwater bungalows and I want a clubhouse. Great. That's 5 vessels for us. Get the vessels, design them the correct way, deploy them. Then our staff manages them, captains, maintenance, and even the food and bev service, depending on where it's going. So that's the really the largest opportunity behind ARKHAUS. Europe, the Mediterranean will be huge for that. And the Gulf, the GCC, the Middle East, will also be very, very big for that. I mentioned a little bit about what's happening in the Middle East with the hundreds of billions of dollars getting poured into tourism, hospitality, and energy, future forms of energy, not oil, but electrification. We really fit into that perfectly. And that's because we build electric boats for transportation. We're building electric boats that can help the expansion to water. And that is everything they're looking for. So we're very excited to kind of go tap into that. All right, let me see. How many passengers will our water taxis carry? It'll be in the 30s. We are making some design tweaks right now, but we believe it'll be, at the moment right now, it's 32 seated with an additional 6 space for standing room. Yeah, lots of opportunities in the Middle East. So, all right, guys. Well, I don't have any more questions in here. So I guess I just want to thank you guys. Appreciate you guys following the story and what we're doing. It's been a wild, wild year with the Arkup acquisition, but we're very, very excited for what that brings us. And you guys have my email. If you don't, it's just sam@thearkcompanies.co, not com.co. Or you can find me on social. But please do go check out the WeFunder and consider making an investment. And let's get this round closed and let's go build. So thanks, everyone.